Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman, and will be your solo host for this episode. As if you've been following along, last week Jocelyn did an episode about 3 challenges that women are dealing with in marriage right now. And so this week is about, as you can imagine, 3 challenges that men are dealing with in marriage right now. And I wanted to cover this one myself. You know, Jocelyn did such a great job covering the challenges that women are going through. And this week, I wanted to really talk about the challenges in a different way than you might be anticipating that are going on for men right now. Now, what do I mean by this? And I'm jumping right in here. So this is going to be a great episode. You know, challenges can be seen as outside circumstances or situations that are not going your way. And that's typically how challenges are thought about, are approached in trying to get to a resolution or a solution. And a lot of times, you may have heard this phrase, by the way, that you're never upset for the reason you think you are. And raise your hand, unless you're driving, if you have heard that saying before. And it is so true, because when you're facing a challenge, as I mentioned, it's a situation that's not going your way, then that's what you deal with. But the underlying real source of the challenge has a lot more to do with an internal conflict or a misalignment from something that you, and I am talking to the men here today, and if you're a female listening, then it's a great insight to your partner, but it's a misalignment of something that you value. Now, we could go deeper into this maybe on another session, but it's closely related to you as a male partner having an undesired experience than what you would desire to have in your life or in this marriage. But I want to talk about it more from what's the misalignment of the value, and that's really where your actual challenge is coming from, right? Because I could talk about today the situational challenge as it comes to you, and men face these, obviously. Things like feeling attacked or criticized, maybe feeling overwhelmed, dealing with something emotionally, but as men, we don't have access to verbalize or to give language to how we're feeling, so maybe we just shut down, and that causes a disconnection between you and your partner. Or it could sound more like the challenge is how your partner is talking to you. It's the tone, it's the attitude, or even being questioned, that you take an action, you make a decision, and then your partner is always asking, well, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do it this way, right? So you feel like they doubt you or they question you, right? So those are real situational challenges, but the 3 I want to go into is the source of what I see of the internal challenge, the misalignment of what the values are that those situations are even causing any problems. So let me just dive right into the first one. So the first one is actually a lack of respect. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? The internal feeling or the misalignment of you wanting to be respected as a partner in your marriage. And when that's not there, then the situational side of maybe how your partner is talking to you is going to come up as a conflict, and you're going to respond or react or shut down to the tone or the attitude, when really the challenge for you is, I don't feel respected. Now, let me give you a couple examples of each of these as I go through. So the lack of respect, pretty much as I just actually mentioned, that does show up a lot in, well, my partner talks down to me. They criticize me. They doubt me. I go to make a decision and they think it's not the right one. So they keep on saying, well, that's not the right one, or why didn't you consult me first, or I don't think we should do that. And it's really all coming from that you don't feel respected. Now, since this is an internal conflict, what's out of alignment is the value of being respected. Now, does this mean that the solution here is that your partner needs to respect you? Well, not initially, right? I mean, we're all about communication. We're all about agreements and boundaries and repair. But the first thing for you to do as a male partner is to do the internal work of getting grounded in your own value. Let me give you a little side example, right? If I said 1 + 1 = 3, and I was so certain about that, would you get upset about that? No, 1 + 1 = 2, but it's just a fact. You're grounded within yourself that you know without a shadow of a doubt that 1 + 1 is 2. If I argue with you that 1 + 1 is 3, it's not going to upset you. Why? Because you're grounded. It doesn't matter. You're grounded in the knowledge for yourself. So with respect, you have to really start there. So it's not just situational or something that your partner needs to change. You're grounded in the value that you are as a human being, that you bring to the marriage. And to be honest, if there is a piece where you're not feeling respected, a big part of it is, are you even in integrity within yourself? I mean, that's a huge question. If you're not doing the things that you set out to do, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in your job, whether it's in your life, if you say things and then you don't do them, that's being out of integrity. You don't have integrity to your word. And so that is going to cause you to not even respect yourself, really. Now, that might not be the conscious thought you have when you wake up, but being out of integrity with who you want to be or who you say you're going to be or how you show up with your partner, you're not going to respect yourself subconsciously or even that feeling in the body. And then so you're not grounded in the value that you are. So then that shows up situationally like, oh, you don't respect me, partner, because of how you talk to me and your attitude and you're always questioning me. So really, that's the key thing. Get grounded in your own value and look for the places in your own life that you've been out of integrity and bring that back into alignment. So let's talk about the second challenge here. And the one I've been seeing a lot is uncertainty. So again, you're going to have the way that the situation shows up, but the challenge is going to be an internal misalignment of the value of certainty. So it shows up as uncertainty. Now, the example with couples that we work with, a good one was a couple that is entering the engaged stage. So they weren't there yet. And so I was talking to the male partner, and for him, situationally, what it looked like was he had not proposed yet to his partner, and it was of his opinion that because he had not set the engagement or proposed yet, that was causing this, you could say, uncertainty in his partner. It was causing this lack of confidence, this lack of where are we going? Am I wasting my time? And then that showed up as creating conflicts, again, even similar to the lack of respect, being questioned a lot, more conflicts coming up, being on edge with each other, being quick to make remarks. And he thought to himself, well, is that because I haven't proposed yet? And I said, yes, that's going to play a part, but let's look at the challenge or the misalignment of the value. And it's that you're not certain. He hadn't proposed because he didn't feel these feelings of, yes, let's get engaged now. And I said, well, what is the measurement for you to say whether you and your partner are a match to get engaged? He said, well, I don't have any. I'm waiting for that feeling. I said, so there's the problem. There's the actual challenge. You're uncertain, whether you should propose, but it's too vague. It's a concept. You're waiting for this sort of feeling to come over you like, oh yeah, we should get married. When what you need to do in the solution to not feeling certain is actually clarity. So I said, take some time and really think to yourself. He was a intellect-driven guy like myself. So I said, okay, data points, right? If you were making a decision on, let's say, buying a business or anything like that, you would have data points. You would understand what it is you would want to see in a business. And it's kind of the same with a partnership. Like, what is it that's going to bring you the certainty to say, this is a person I want to pursue life with, I want to get married to and go in that season with? And those could be an array of things. Now, he needed to figure that out himself, but it could be that you're aligned on your core values, that you're wanting the same types of experiences in life. Maybe it's adventure, or maybe you want to create a home, or you want the experience of family. Or it could be more that you're able to determine how fast you can repair from conflicts. Or maybe it's reducing the conflicts that you have, or maybe it's how much you have in your love tanks. So whatever the metric is, I said you have to get clarity on what it is that's going to show up, be able to kind of measure that to give yourself the certainty to then move to the next stage of engagement, right? So you can see here in your own life, the misalignment of the value is not being certain about something. And that could be for you around any of the main areas. It could be uncertain about where you're supposed to go next, maybe as far as living, or it could be around your career, uncertain about the next step with parenting, uncertain about what the next season really holds for you and your partner. Maybe you just felt kind of stagnant, that you haven't been making progress. And that feeling of uncertainty is going to linger unless you do what? The solution is get clarity. You really have to get clear on what is going to bring you that feeling of certainty. So let's move to the third point here. The third challenge I see that men are dealing with in the marriage right now, again, as a reminder, we're talking about the internal out of alignment value or experience that's not being desired. Because that is the real root of the situational or surface level challenges. And this last one is obligation. The obligation is maybe the feeling that this is not the life that I chose, and I'm obligated. I just have to almost sacrifice myself, and maybe it's around a job. I have to have this job to provide for the family. There isn't anything else I can do. And the example for a couple that we're working with now is actually they have a younger son that has been determined to have an eating disorder and be partially on the spectrum. And this has been a big weight on the male partner, primarily because he feels as if this situation was not something that he chose. Now, obviously, he loves his son, but he does feel the challenge of life and a challenge in the marriage of feeling obligated to now sacrifice a part of his life for all of the things. So much overwhelm, actually, too, for what he has to do to provide for his son. He doesn't feel like he chose this. The amount of hours he has to work, what he has to do in his job, but then also the activities at home to provide the right environment. And so that causes challenges with him and his wife. And he ended up saying that he just feels like a robot, that no one is acknowledging him, is valuing him for the person that he is, all from this feeling of obligation. This is what I have to do. This is the hand I've been dealt with life, and there's not anything else I can actually do. So that's a big challenge, underlying challenge of just feeling like life isn't what you chose. So what's the real solution here? It's getting to a place where you realize you do have the freedom to choose. Now, when I say that, you might feel like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea, but I can't just make these huge changes. I don't really have that freedom to choose. Well, you really do. And maybe these choices are going to have some longer time horizons, but that's okay. When you realize that life is not stuck the way it is, you're not obliged or obligated to have life go exactly the way it's been going, that you can start to make some changes in how you parent, maybe some changes in how things get organized. Maybe you need to get more help around the home, or in the case with this couple that we've been coaching, It's like maybe you do need to get some outside resources to help with your child, and maybe there needs to be a place that you take him now more often that can provide the care that you really need for him or that he really needs. And so, yes, though there might be some decision points in between that, and maybe things don't happen right away, but as soon as you realize that there are choices, there is a certain freedom that comes from that. And that freedom that there are choices starts to move you beyond this feeling of obligation or that you're stuck or that you're required to continue to do life the way that you've been doing it. And so I did want to mention here that with all three of these are deep because it's, again, an internal misalignment of values. And a lot of times this shows up for couples as a battle for fairness, especially in the obligation. And because of this, we wanted to do another free web class. It's going to be coming up on September 15th here, so just a week away. But it's a marriage web class on your relationship roles, reducing your feeling of overwhelm, overcoming resentment, and being that unified team once again. And those are the situational challenges that arise from, again, a core misalignment of value of this idea of fairness, which really does tie into all the challenges I just talked about: the respect, the obligation, and even feeling uncertain. And so how this might show up for you is that you experience arguments or resentments because you feel things are unfair or not equal. You unfortunately find yourself like keeping score, keeping tally, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't be upset about that because I've done this, this, and this, and what have you done? Or you wish that you were more of a unified team and you experience more harmony in how you handle these situational life matters. You might feel overwhelmed with the roles and responsibilities you play. Just like I mentioned, the obligation that you're stuck, you were forced into, you didn't choose these roles. Or often you wish that you felt more just ease and fun together rather than fatigue and tension. So this is going to be a wonderful web class. It is, once again, September 15th. It's going to be at 5 p.m. PST. And so you can track that back for the time zone that you're in. It'll be a place where you don't have to be on camera, but you're going to see us live. You'll be able to ask questions around all this, and you don't want to miss this. So to register for this free web class, go to onlinecouplesworkshops.com to register for this ending of the battle of fairness, which once again just ties into these three challenges that I wanted to talk about today that men are dealing with in marriage right now. Again, going deeper than the situational level they are experiencing, as I have as well, going through this hard season that I've been going through, some lack of respect, a level of feeling uncertain or obligation. So I love you all, and we cannot wait to see you on the web class, and then we'll also be talking to you next week on the podcast. See you then.